Hi, welcome to Indelible Impression with TeeMcBee. Today I have a fabulous person that when I met her, she made an indelible impression on me. And through that, I said, we need to talk more. We need to share your message with more people and how everything ties into our habits. And so today I have Tamsin Astor, and she is the Chief Habit Scientist, and she wrote a fabulous book, Force of Habit. And we're going to talk with her right now. Welcome, Tamsin.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk about this stuff. It's totally my jam.
Oh, I know. And as I went through your book, I learned so many things and I saw so many tie-ins, the messages we hear our whole life about this and that, but your book condensed it all in one place. And I really feel that when women zone in on one thing and they do a lot of highlighting, I'm a big fan of highlighting in books, right? And as you can see my book here, and I wanted to find out what motivated you to write this book.
So partly it was my own personal experience. I'd dealt with a child with cancer. I dealt with a child with special needs. My marriage was crumbling. And I'm somebody that when life gets difficult, I look for solutions. And, like Brene Brown says, you have your face down in the arena moment. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to lie there and like, woe is me, and then never think about it again? Or are you going to get up and go, well, how did I get here? And reflect and figure out some tools and move on, or are you just going to spend the rest of your life living in that face down moment? And I'm somebody that likes to get up and figure it out. So as I figured out solutions for myself, I decided I had to train in it. When I got trained in it and I started condensing it, and my background is in academia, in neuroscience, so I'm used to handling information, pulling out what makes sense of it, condensing it, figuring out the key themes, and then putting it all together.
Well, I find that is so important because our brains work totally different.
Right.
So I'm a creative. I'm not an academic. I don't sit and study and research. It's not my jam. So taking a book like yours really simplified it. You referred to a lot of great other books that you've probably read volumes of. I would never read, but you got the gist of it. You put the gist of it in the book. I really love that.
Right, and that was my aim, was to write a book that you could sit down and read cover to cover in 90 minutes or so, and then just dive into particular sections. Like, I'm really stuck on sleep, and I know that if I can handle my sleep, then everything else will start to feel a little bit more easy, because it's really hard to get anything done when you're not sleeping well.
Right.
So if you want to start by just zoning right in on the chapter on sleep, you can go in, read the science behind why it's important to do it, or you can just even go right to the back of the chapter and go, this is how you do it, if you've only got 10 minutes.
Right. Oh, I love that. And you're right. Not everybody, even with what I do, they might have some parts they got down pat. Like sleeping, I can sleep. I have no problem sleeping, but I have a lot of friends who can't. So it's about how to do that, how to deal with it, how to focus on it, and how to get better sleep.
Absolutely.
So it's just finding, when you see a book like this, you zone in on what your needs are and take from it what you need to.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So one of the things you also talked about that I love, and I love little areas in a book where they're highlighted and it's like a cheat sheet to me,
Something
right?
useful, right?
I'm all about cheat sheets, right? And you talk about the 3 S's of cultivating habits.
Yes.
Can you share?
So the 3 S's are the same time, the same place, and sandwich. So the same time and the same place are part of what we understand a habit cycle to be. So a habit has 3 parts: the cue, the thing that triggers the habit cycle, the action, which is the actual habit itself, and then the reward, how the habit makes you feel. Why do you keep doing it again? And the cues are the person, the place, the time, the preceding event, the things that trigger it, right? So it might be when I get home from work, I kick off my shoes, dump my work bag, have a cup of tea, right? So the cue might be I walk in the front door. So that the first 2 S's, the same time and the same place, are part of that. So if you say you're starting a meditation practice, you want to do it in the same place in your house. Every time you walk past that cushion, you have that energy of, that's where I sit.
It triggers that.
It triggers
I need
that,
to do
right?
this.
Doing it at the same time, again, like I do it after my morning coffee, or I do it before I go to bed, right? So that when we learn to, brush our teeth, right?
Right.
You have to think it through, and you have to encourage your kids, you have to teach your kids, and then it gets to a point where you don't think about it because your brain has helpfully automated it. The third piece, sandwich, is really helpful when you're creating a new habit, because what you're looking at there is inserting a new habit in between two habits that you consecutively already do.
Oh, okay.
So you're sandwiching, say, like the piece of cheese between the bread, right? So say you, every morning you get up, you go to the bathroom, you go downstairs, you make tea, you let out your dog, right? So say you have a set order of things that you always do in the same habit, and you're trying, or in the same order, and you're trying to add a new habit, say meditation, say journaling, say, 5 minutes of yoga poses or stretching. You want to insert that, you want to sandwich that between those two habits that you're consecutively doing, because the brain has already wired those two together. It's more likely to stick than if you just randomly throw it in at some other point of day.
That's brilliant. I'd never heard that before. You read about habits, and especially first of the year.
Right. Everyone's doing it.
Doing it. We have to do it. Improve your habits. And I talk about routines a lot, because it all starts with our morning routine of how we get dressed, about streamlining it. But no one has ever talked about the sandwiching. So in between, getting up and letting the dog out, or whatever people do, making tea or coffee or whatever their thing is, and adding in that couple of minutes journaling, right?
Right.
Journaling is the thing. I start it, I do really well.
Right.
Randomly, hear it in the morning, hear it at night, but then it falls apart.
Right, and so if you put your journal next to your tea kettle or your coffee pot, so when you come downstairs in the morning, you go to do the thing that you're always doing, and your journal is there, and while it's brewing, you grab that journal and you sit at the kitchen table. You literally stand at the counter and I'm going to write for the 3 minutes it takes.
Right.
And there you're cultivating that new habit, and it's more likely to stick, because
Exactly.
one of the issues when we start creating new habits is that we rely on willpower. And willpower is a muscle. And willpower fatigues.
Right.
And what we should really be using is our willpower to figure out how to make the habit stick. I.e., being your own habit scientist, right? I'm the chief habit scientist. I want to encourage people to be their own habit scientists.
Right.
What is something that I do every day in the same order? How could I think about adding a new habit in there? If I've got a habit that's not serving me, how could I think about replacing it with another habit? So it's about really, analyzing it, right? You have to be a scientist. Like, what am I doing? What's not working?
Right. And so many things we do so automatically. So that journaling helps us dig deeper.
Right.
Okay, so the other thing was, in here you have a section where it says, what does this book say? I loved it.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, here's like the Cliff Notes.
Right.
And this is, you got the highlighted points. So this is something you can, in my brain, how it works is I can take this, digest it quicker, faster, rather than reading 10 paragraphs, because I won't remember 10 paragraphs. But it's like you took notes for me.
Right, yeah.
So tell me something in here that really...
So the first bit, which is what I was just acknowledging, is that you have to face yourself. If you want to make a change in any area of your life, whether it's your wardrobe, your style, how you show up, a relationship, your relationship with food, anything that you want to change, you have to see what you're doing right now. And if you don't take the time and effort to really face what's going on, no changes are going to happen.
Yes.
So that's one of the first things that this book says. And then, another thing this book says is that we don't operate in a vacuum.
No.
Right? We've got all of the other relationships we're navigating. We've got our home, we've got our office, we've got the physical environments and the emotional environments.
And all the people that we live with that we're kind of constantly...
We're navigating all of that. So you have to factor that into it, right? Like, does your partner work night shifts? That's going to impact how you eat your meals, right? And your sleep routines, right? Do you have a dog that needs certain care? Do you have a child that needs, so as you start to think about that, right, those things will affect it. So, our physical environments massively affect that. And there's some really interesting research. I pulled this from Jared Diamond, who's an evolutionary psychologist, who talks about how cultures evolved based on their climate. Right, and how Europe evolved in a particular way because they had access to water and the temperature was moderate and it was easy to create crops and organize, communities around crops, in comparison to somewhere like Africa, which has a much harder climate, right? So you didn't have that way to organize and feed and support big communities, right? So you can think about it on a massive global scale, or you can think about it on your personal scale, right? So those are two. And then another part is, I feel like we worship at the altar of stress. I'm so busy, I'm so stressed, I'm so busy, I'm so stressed. And it's almost like a badge of honor that people wear now.
I agree. We hear that all the time.
And it's kind of like, oh, really? We're not supposed to live like that.
No.
The stress response is designed to save us, to protect us from the woolly mammoth, you know, but we react like that to an email, to a tweet, you know, to somebody carving us up, to, you know, our husband saying this or that, or our kid saying this or the other, our boss saying that. And those are the things that, you know, add a huge amount. And so one is that we have to change our relationship with stress. So acknowledge that, yes, it's part of life, but we can find strategies to navigate it. And we, of course, don't want to live without stress because we need stress. There's a phrase in there, eustress, which means good stress. And we need a little bit of fire to, you know, get stuff done, you know?
Right.
But the chronic stress that we live in means that our body is flooded with cortisol. And adrenaline is a hormone that breaks down super quickly. You know that, you know, one of my sons broke his arm, you know, and the adrenaline got him to the ER and like an hour into the ER, and then the adrenaline wore off and the pain hit, right? Cortisol takes 24 hours to break down. So if you're having a stress-induced moment every day, your entire system is flooded in a hormone that's supposed to be a reactive hormone.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. I never knew it lasted that long.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Well, I really think everybody needs to read your book, and especially the Digging Deeper. Okay, so I'm all about digging deeper because this is something that I find in closets all the time. Women just are buying, they're not giving intention to what it is they're adding or deleting. It's just random. It's, I need something for tomorrow, and they're running out and they're doing stuff, right? So digging deep in the prompts. So I love your prompts. It makes people really go, okay, they don't have to come up with their own questions. If they have to come up with their own questions, they won't do it. They don't do it. Because you get the pen and you're like ready, and then you think, what do I need to write about?
What should I write about? I was on the phone with a client just before I came here saying, like, I know I'm supposed to journal. I don't know what to journal about. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give you 10 prompts right now on the phone. You know, and one of them is just have the alphabet, A through Z. And you can sit down and write, this is how I want my day to go. This is how I feel about this person. This is how I feel. And you're just like, you know, awesome, brilliant, you know, collaborative, delicious, you know, ecstatic, you know, freaking awful, you know, right? And it doesn't have to be, you know, complicated, but yes, otherwise when you're faced with the blank page, and I know that as a writer, you know, when you're faced with the blank page, you're like, what am I going to do?
Right, I need prompts.
What am I going to fill it with?
We need an editor to tell us, focus on this topic.
Right.
Okay, I could write about that all day long, right? So then, because we met at NABO.
Yes.
And for those who don't know what NABO is, it's a National Association of Women Business Owners. So it's an organization that's nationwide, and we're both members in the Cleveland chapter. And I was speaking on a panel at a NABO event, and you came up to me, you shared some things with me, and we started working together. So let's use your brilliance of habits, right? And how has it changed? Because you're changing some of your habits in the closet, and how you look at clothing, and what to keep and what to let go of, and all of that. What has changed? How has this helped you in any direction?
So one of the things that I think was really fun when we started working together was when you went through my wardrobe, is the insane variety of stuff I have from when I was 16 years old, you know, and I'm 43, right? Stuff from my mom, stuff from all over the... So one of the things that it really helped me do was streamline it, because we make 35,000 decisions every day.
Isn't that fantastic? I read that in your book, and I was
like, which is crazy,
wow.
Right? Which is why it leads us to massive overwhelm. So that's one of the reasons why creating systems and routines, which a lot of people can kind of go, you know, that's really boring and old ladyish, and I don't want to do that, whether it's bulk cooking your meals or planning out your closet. So for me, having my closet streamlined has been so hugely important and has reduced the amount of decisions I have to make. So particularly because I travel a lot, right? I'm going to be speaking in Athens and Greece in February.
Exciting. Very exciting.
And I was traveling over the Christmas. So I travel a lot for work and for pleasure. And when I go into my closet now, I can go, these 2 jackets, those 2 skirts, and it all just slots together, right? And I just know it's going to work. And I don't stand there going, I don't know how to handle it.
Right.
The other thing that's been huge for me is organizing my jewelry and having it all hanging up. All of my necklaces are hanging up inside my closet, all of my bracelets. So again, I now know from the skin tone analysis that I should be wearing gold. I've spent 30-some years wearing silver. So I'm thinking, I've got a daughter, I'll transition the silver to her. Hopefully it's right for her skin tone. And
or you can mix them.
Or
You
I can
mix
mix
the
them.
gold and silver.
Yeah, I do that. And the other one is when I shop. When I was shopping in London with two of my girlfriends, it was brilliant. I was walking around going, wrong color, wrong color, wrong color, wrong color. So I wasn't standing there wasting time. I was zoning in very specifically, you know, and I bought a gold belt and I bought a cream shirt because I know that cream is better for my skin tone than white. So it allowed me to, you know, have the fun of shopping in another country and getting in, you know, really digging into the pleasure of shopping, because I love that. With two of my, you know, girlfriends, which was just, you know, we sent our kids off down to Starbucks and H&M. So they were off with their Christmas money, shopping and doing their thing. But it allowed me to be focused and have fun.
Right.
And I think often we have this idea that when you get into rhythms and routines and habits, that you lose all the fun. And my point is that when you create those rhythms and routines, it creates more time and energy and space for the fun, for the pleasure, for the joy, because you're not having to make those decisions.
Right, right. Well, and I also find that in the closet, if you love everything you have, and we talked a lot about that. How do you love that? How do you feel about this? It's about how your clothes make you feel, because that walks in the door of everywhere you go, right? Because your image, your presence walks everywhere you go.
Absolutely.
And it's either making you feel good, or it's making you feel like, I don't know.
Like, are you gonna hide?
Or second guessing your choices. So that's why women tend to, instead of being vibrant, right, and bringing joy and feeling really like awesome, they just tone it down.
Wear the black and hide.
Right, because then I know I won't stand. Exactly. And that is what I hear a lot, and it's helping women
take up space.
Right.
Own their space.
And feel joy all at the same time. So I really love that. Your prompts, the journaling prompts, all of this works so well. And even in my book, I put journaling prompts in the back. Mine's a 30-day workbook so that it can help people get to creating what you're talking about. So they need both of these books, right?
Right, absolutely.
To work on their closet, they're streamlining their daily routine, but also to take all this into every area of their life.
Right, and think also a little bit, so there's two pieces that this covers, and which is also really important, is the mindset, you know, your relationship with yourself and your relationship with others. Because, you know, again, particularly with clothes, you know, we're often told, like, you know, a woman over 40 should have her hair short, or, you know, you shouldn't wear a short skirt, or it's not appropriate to. You know, we get all these messages from media about how we should dress and how we should look. So tackling that is huge. Right. And then also the vision piece, like, you know, which you did so well with me, is what kind of impression are you trying to create? Like, what is your goal here? You know, and I do that with my clients. What kind of life are you trying to create for yourself?
Because you need to look at what you want to create and then figure out the steps to get there.
Right. And
rather than do all these steps and then go, well, I'm not really sure where I'm going with this.
And your book was brilliant for that, because it really clearly, and working with you gave me that clear structure. Like, okay, we've got to see where we're at. We've got to gather the data. What's going on? What's the baseline, right? And I do that with my clients too. Like, what are you doing every day? How are you sleeping? How are you eating? What's all this stuff going on? Because if you don't start with that initial, like, where are you? And then give people the steps to go through it, it's not going to happen.
I agree. So it's been so much fun chatting. We have more to talk about,
obviously,
off camera, right? And it never ends, because I find that no matter what we're doing, we're making improvements in our life. We never get it done. You never get one wardrobe and go, okay, I'm done. This is it for the rest of my life. Right? Because we're evolving. What's important to us evolving. What we do for a living is evolving, and we need to celebrate that rather than feel like, oh, it's just too much work. Because we're worth it.
Absolutely.
We are worth the time, the energy, and the focus. And when we understand ourselves, we can just help the people that we love more.
Absolutely. And that's really what it's about, is that bigger life mission. It's like, who am I here to serve? What kind of impact am I trying to have on the world? And, you know, it can be really easy to minimize certain things, like, you know, a lot of women don't sleep, because they're like, I'll sleep, you know, later. I can handle it. And for me, like, I grew up where thinking about clothes was like, oh, that's vain. Like, you don't think about how you look. You know, let's put our attention into how we serve others. You know, and so for me, it was always comfort and do I like the color? You know, but it wasn't really thinking about how it all goes together.
Right. So it's being more intentional.
Totally.
In everything that we do, from cooking, and if you know, I'm
Yeah.
not a great cook,
Yeah.
so in your book you even share recipes
Yes, yeah.
about one pot and
Yeah.
serve cooking.
Yeah.
That's how I cook.
Right.
My husband uses multiple dishes, right? I'm like, how can I get everything into one pot, cook it, and it still tastes good?
And then you can eat it for 4 days.
Exactly. So I do. My thing is soup. I make
Yeah.
soup, and
And
it
you
lasts a
last.
couple of days,
Yeah.
and I'm done.
Yeah.
So it's just those little things, and I love that you shared recipes, from shakes to meals to all sorts of things. And I looked at a couple of them, and I thought, wow, this is something that is easy enough even for me who doesn't cook. Right?
Awesome. Yay.
So everybody, you need to get a copy of Tamsin's book. All right, Force of Habit, and they can buy it on
Amazon.
and it's at
And it's
the
at the local,
bookstores.
it's at the local Barnes and Noble in Woodmere.
Great. So thanks for coming on. We'll talk to you soon. We'll be back. And thanks for joining Indelible Impression. And you go out and make your indelible impression.